Hello, this is Dr. Mandy, and I just received my BiomeFx stool test results that I wanted to share with you. So, quick background, those of you who know, I have struggled with interstitial cystitis for about 13 years now, and during my journey of healing, there was a period of time I was taking a load of antibiotics, but I also have a history of antibiotic overuse as a child as well. So what you're seeing here is a consequence of that, as well as interventions that I have really focused on in the past couple of years to try to improve that. Let's take a look at some of these different areas here. So on the first page, you can see the report summary. It kind of gives you an indication on where things are. So my first is a gut microbiome score, which is 27.67. And ideally you want to be over 30, but 27 is actually considered pretty good. So I actually have a pretty good microbiome index, but over 30 is considered excellent. So I do have some work to do on that. Now, this is calculated by assessing the 4 key indicators of the microbiome and comparing that to a typical healthy gut microbiome. Alpha diversity over here is actually pretty good too. It's tied to reduced risk of all types of chronic conditions and can also be better tied to postbiotic production and a stronger metabolome, which means all of the metabolizing and microbiome products, or they produce all these benefits of a healthy microbiome. So that's due to the diversity. So doing okay, would like to see it in the green, but not bad considering my background. Beta diversity does need a little bit of improvement. I have seen a lot worse with my patients in the red, so I'm pleased with this considering my background again. But this is going to tell me my overall composition of ecology. So there could be diverse richness, which means lots of species, but for whatever reason, it's deviating from the average healthy US. And we have resistome, which is this one over here. And that is actually not too bad either. It is, I'd like to see it in green, but again, considering where I've been, I'm, think I'm doing okay. And this resistance is measured in antibiotics that are produced by the bacteria against other bacteria. So bacteria try to maintain their populations, and they do that by producing their own antibiotics and chemicals that inhibit one another. And this is the measure of the health and activity of the ecological composition of the microbiome. A stronger and more diverse gut microbiome, which has better diversity, will have a better resistome. So they'll be more resilient against gut damaging factors. So low resilience is associated with antibiotic resistant infections. And some of the things that can affect that are like overusing strong antimicrobial household cleaners, which we don't, and consuming foods that contain antibiotics, which we don't, and drinking poorly purified water, which we don't. So that could be a consequence of that. And also probiotics containing Bacillus endospores, like Bacillus subtilis, that's found in HU58, can support a healthy gut environment through competitive exclusion, which is the process by which powerful protective bacteria like Bacillus spores can restore a favorable balance to the microbiome. For example, Bacillus subtilis, which is in HU58, can produce over 12 natural antimicrobials to support a more stable and resilient microbiome, which is one of the reasons why that's one of the probiotics I like everyone to start with. And finally, there's pathogen control index at 7.81, and it's a relative abundance of pathogens in the context of the rest of the microbiome. So what's basically saying is that I'm able to control the pathogens that are present as a result of the rest of the microbiome. So let's explain what this means. So the test looks at a number of specific pathogens that are relatively common and tend to be correlated with diseases such as you see here, the C. difficile. They are sequencing about 16 or 17 pathogens and doing a full genome to look for their presence. And not only are we looking for the disease, but we're looking at the relative abundance to other microbes in the gut microbiome. It's basically the whole ecological mix. So, everyone has pathogens, and most pathogens in the gut have some beneficial function as long as they're well controlled. And so in this case, the higher the number, the actual better it is. So not doing bad. I'm actually right up by the green here. So again, a higher score on the pathogen control index indicates that the gut microbiome is well balanced and has sufficient control of potential pathogens. Now the C. diff, I would have expected to be here. It's high, but I'll show you it's not like super high. And that's probably from just all the antibiotics. You see some of my keystone species are low here. I'm not surprised about that. And then I have some functions that are out of range. So, but if we scroll down, we can see that the main issue, and you can see as we have the healthy US should be in the gray. So I am within the gray, but they really like to see it above the gray area. So although I'm in the gray with the US, ideally we want to be higher. So that's the goal for me. So the biggest problem here is this, the Firmicutes Bacteroides ratio. The harmful strains of bacteria from the Firmicutes can be overgrown. Now, generally it's due to excess saturated fat, which can occur if you're on a ketogenic diet, but I don't follow that kind of diet. So in my case, it could be from too much oxygen in the GI tract. That's due to poor digestion and poor fermentation. So I do need to raise my Bacteroides because they are beneficial for the gut microbiome, and they perform various functions in the body, such as iron homeostasis, digestion of non-glucose sugars, and folate metabolism. And they also help produce the short-chain fatty acids. You can see that the Bacteroides and the verrucomicrobia are both really low. There's actually none here. And that could be because they are strict obligative anaerobes. So they do need an anaerobic environment strictly and cannot handle oxygen. And so there could be some translocation occurring from the mouth to the gut, as from one perspective could be happening. Or there could be things that are impairing nutrient absorption, digestive issues that can affect the fermentation process. In the distal colon, fermentation requires low oxygen. So if there's a high oxygen in the gut, this can favor the growth of the microbes. And some can adapt, like these Firmicutes, actinobacteria, and proteobacter. They can do both. They're facultative anaerobes, and so they can switch back and forth. So there seems to be some of that going on. This could be digestive driven, but it could also be due to the mitochondrial toxicity of the antibiotics that I was on for so long, which I'm not on anymore. I haven't been for a few years, but as you can see how long it takes to reverse that here. Also, the high proteobacteria is also a hallmark sign of imbalance within the gut microbiome. As you can see here, they're high. They're found in low abundance in the gut, and here they're high. So it is showing imbalance. Now, again, this thrives on saturated fat and sugar, which I don't eat very much of. I don't follow a Western diet. So for me, it's probably coming from this oxygen environment. So there's some significant imbalances here. All right. So saccharolytic fermentation is great. I figured it would be because my diet does support that. But unfortunately, it's being thrown off by my proteolytic fermentation being a little too high because of poor digestion. So I'm definitely going to need to support digestion, as well as taking digestive enzymes and probably even a hydrochloric acid. Now, I am typically very low in zinc. That could be from years of copper toxicity that I've had to deal with. So still working on getting that out. My alkaline phosphatase is low, and I haven't ruled out pyluria for that. So it's very possible that could have been going on. That's keeping my zinc low, and that could be affecting my ability to produce stomach acid. So I do take HCl. Butyrate is good. I could be a little bit better. Propionate is low, and acetate is good. So some of my short chain fatty acids are good. Saccharolytic fermentation, again, you get from things like peas, lentils, rice that's been cooked and cooled, inulin, foods that have inulin like onions, garlic, chicory, jicama, beta glucans, and fructooligosaccharides. So like all the prebiotics helps with increasing that, and they're important for the short chain fatty acids. So again, propionate could be low when there's high fat, high sugar, which I don't do. So it's probably due to other issues that are going on, and I would have to just continue to support that with the fibers. Ammonia, unfortunately, was high, which I would have expected because of my poor ability to digest protein. It's not terribly high, but it's on the higher side than I would like. And that is damaging to the gut microbiome, but can also cause certain bacteria that rely on ammonia to proliferate. So we don't want to create that kind of dysbiosis. But normally foods that are high in nitrogen, such as proteins, can cause that to be high. Ornithine helps get our ammonia levels down, and actually lactulose can help reduce ammonia levels as well. I don't have any symptoms of neuroinflammation from this, so I'm not going to address it too much. I'm just going to continue with my protocols. And then there is hydrogen sulfide, which I would have expected also to be high. And that's as a result of possibly my body trying to push liver detox and sulfur detox pathways, maybe eating too much sulfur containing foods, which I do and crave. So maybe have to back off on that a little bit because it can cause this hydrogen sulfide gas, which can be very uncomfortable. It is produced by Proteobacter and firmicutes, which I'm obviously high in the Clostridia, E. coli, and Salmonella, Klebsiella, Streptococcus, and Enterobacter, which I seem to be predominant in a lot of ways, especially with the Clostridium being high. High protein diets do increase hydrogen sulfide by supplying sulfide-rich amino acids, cysteine, which can be converted to hydrogen sulfide. So I have to also make sure I'm not taking too much NAC, because too much NAC can also contribute to that N-acetylcysteine. Maybe just not eating too many cruciferous vegetables. When it's too high, it can disrupt ATP production and can destabilize the gut mucosal layer and cause inflammation. So it's important to reduce this. Glutathione is low. I would expect that. I seem to be a person who does not produce a lot of glutathione. It could also be maybe my body's using it up just for the need of maybe needing antioxidants. And finally, histamine is high. Again, that's due to some of the proteobacteria that's in the GI tract, and I'm not surprised. Histamine is such common. It's also roseburia and these other Klebsiella and decreased bifidobacterium. So I'm going to increase my bifido supplementation to try to get this histamine down, because that is notorious with people who have IC. And the vitamin biosynthesis, the big one I notice here is the B2 being low. And that's another reason why I supplement. B2 is a very necessary cofactor in so many different processes in the body, associated with methylation and also with histamines, and actually supplementing all of my Bs. And biotin is very interesting too. This is one that I am very low in genetically, enzymatically, and also could be contributing to the elevated candida overgrowth. I did notice that on my blood work that my biotin markers were also low. So that's pretty much it. So got some work to do, and I'm going to retest this again in about 6 to 12 months.